Good morning, everyone. Welcome to church this morning on this, I think it's lovely, but overcast July morning. I am Jade Sylvan. I am the summer minister here at First Parish in Concord. And today I'm very happy to welcome Jim Sherblum to talk about thorough and transcendentalism and all of those wonderful things. Jim, say hello to the people.
Hello, delighted to be here.
And I'm also happy to say that Sarah is here to help us with all of our tech needs.
Good morning. It's good to be with you today.
And I'm going to pass it off to Jim for our call to worship.
So our call to worship is from the book Forest Bathing, the Japanese art and science of Shinrin Yuku by Dr. Ching Lee. He writes, "We all know how good being in nature can make us feel. We have known it for millennia. The sounds of the forest, the scent of the trees, the sunlight playing through the leaves, the fresh, clean air, these things give us a sense of comfort. They ease our stress and worry, help us to relax and to think more clearly. Being in nature can restore our mood, give us back our energy and vitality, refresh and rejuvenate us. We know this deep in our bones. It's like an intuition or an instinct, a feeling that is sometimes hard to describe. The Japanese language has a word for those feelings that are too deep for words. Jürgen. Jürgen gives us a profound sense of the beauty and mystery of the universe."
As Unitarian Universalists, we begin our services by lighting a chalice. The flame represents all flames. And so in this time when we're still doing things remotely, it can be especially powerful to imagine the flame existing in all of our homes. So if you have a candle or a chalice with you, you're welcome to light it with me and join me in our chalice lighting response. O flame of our faith, open our hearts and fill our bodies and souls with persistent strength. Enliven our spirits and engage us deeply in this life of ours, this sacred essential moment now.
So our reading this morning is from a Lyceum lecture by Henry David Thoreau called Walking. He writes, "I have met but one or two persons in the course of my life who understood the art of walking, that is, of taking walks, who had a genius, so to speak, for sauntering. Some would derive the word from saunster, without land or a home, which therefore will mean having no particular home, but equally at home everywhere. For this is the secret of successful sauntering. The saunterer is no more vagrant than a meandering river, which is all the while seeking the shortest course to the sea. For every walk is a sort of crusade, preached by some Peter the Hermit in us to go forth and reconquer this holy land from the hands of the infidels. It is true, we are today but faint-hearted crusaders, even the walkers nowadays, who undertake no persevering, never-ending enterprises. Our expeditions are but tours and come round again at evening to the old hearthside from which we set out. Half our walk is but retracing our steps. We should go forth on the shortest walk, perchance, in the spirit of undying adventure, never to return, prepared to send back our embalmed hearts only as relics to our desolate kingdoms. So if you're ready to leave father and mother, and brother and sister, and wife and child and friends, and never see them again, if you have paid your debts and made your will, and settled all your affairs, and are a completely free man, then you're ready for a walk." So I'm going to talk a little bit about sensational sauntering, mindful motion, immersing ourselves in the wild, and how trees can help us find joy, health, happiness, and deep equanimity. That is to say, forest bathing. In Japan, it's called yurgen, and is said to give one a profound sense of the beauty and mystery of the universe. And when practiced regularly, it has been clinically demonstrated to reduce blood pressure, lower stress, improve cardiovascular and metabolic health, lower blood sugar levels, increase concentration and memory, lift depression, improve pain thresholds, boost energy, strengthen the immune system, and help to lose weight. The art of forest bathing is the art of connecting with nature through our senses. In his book, Nature, Ralph Waldo Emerson described his own experience this way: crossing a bare common in snow puddles at twilight under a clouded sky, without having in my thoughts any occurrence of special good fortune, I have enjoyed a perfect exhilaration. I am glad to the brink of fear. Standing on bare ground, my head bathed by the blithe air and uplifted into infinite space, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing. I see all. The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am part and particle of God. As a Unitarian minister and transcendentalist mystic, Emerson encountered the divine mystery deep within nature and deep within his soul. Emerson wrote in his personal journal, "Upon a mountain solitude, a man instantly feels a sensible exaltation and a better claim to his rights in the universe. He who wanders in the woods perceives how natural it was to pagan imagination to find gods in every deep grove and by each fountainhead. Nature seems to him not to be silent, but to be eager and striving to break out in music. Each tree, flower, and stone he invests with life and character, and it is impossible that the wind which breathes so expressive a sound amid the leaves could mean nothing." In his Lyceum lecture on the method of nature, Emerson draws upon Kant and Carlyle and Schelling and Coleridge to describe a nature-based dynamic pantheism with parallels in Pythagorean, Neoplatonic, and Zoroastrian philosophical traditions. For Emerson, transcendentalism was a uniquely American manifestation of this perennial philosophy, the way, with a capital W, to achieve ecstatic union with the Supreme Being. Drinking deeply from these living waters of mystics, both ancient and modern, Emerson began a multi-hundred-year tradition of walking in the wild of Concord, a tradition which many of us are happy to continue today. However, to get us beyond Concord and show this not merely a Concord tradition, let me briefly quote a half dozen of other sensational saunterers, beginning with the philosopher Balzac. who said, "To saunter is a science, to saunter is to live." Or the composer Ludwig van Beethoven, who wrote, "In the country, it seems as if every tree said to me, 'Holy, holy, who can give complete expression to the ecstasy of the woods? Oh, the sweet stillness of the woods.'" Or Franz Kafka, who wrote, "Walking along without a care in the world, the wind pushing through the gaps between us and our various limbs, our throats feel free in the mountains. It's a miracle we haven't burst into song." Friedrich Nietzsche, who wrote, "It is our custom to think in the open air, walking, leaping, climbing, or dancing on lonesome mountains by preference, or close to the sea where even the paths become thoughtful." Or Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who wrote, "I rose every morning before the sun, walking here. I manifest my prayer, which does not consist of a vain mumbling of the lips, but a sincere raising of my thoughts to the Almighty." Or finally, Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote, "You cannot imagine how beautiful are these alpine valleys. It seemed to me when I had been walking here, as if every flower I ever saw in a garden met me somewhere in the rocks and meadows." Yet Concord's greatest prophet of sensational sauntering would be Emerson's young protege, Henry David Thoreau. In his Lyceum lecture called Walking, Thoreau stated, "I think I cannot preserve my health and spirits unless I spend 4 hours a day at least, and it is commonly more than that, sauntering through the woods and over the hills and fields, absolutely free from all worldly engagements. I believe that there is a subtle magnetism in nature which, if we unconsciously yield to it, will direct us right." Thoreau records in one of his journals that on a brilliant summer day, perhaps overcast like this or letting the sun shine through, he rose with the sun, and having no fixed commitments, he began walking west into the wild. When thirsty, he stopped and drank from a brook. When hungry, he picked apples from a farmer's tree. But it was a day devoted entirely to sauntering. Eventually, he was drawn from his transcendental state by noticing that the sun was setting on the western horizon. He inquired of a local farmer and discovered he was now in Leominster, some 20 plus miles from where he began. For Thoreau, this was a good day. Dwelling for 14 hours in beauty and in divine mystery, a day was never better spent. Unless he had a fixed destination, Thoreau often preferred to saunter westward, though he clarifies in his Lyceum lecture what he means by that. He wrote, "The West of which I speak is but another name for the wild. And what I have been preparing to say is that in wildness is the preservation of the world. Life consists of wildness. The most alive is the wildest. Above all, we cannot afford not to live in the present moment." Thoreau experienced Concord as a holy land, where he found profound beauty and divine mystery, most often while sauntering sensationally. He remembers in his Lyceum talk, "We had a remarkable sunset one day last November. I was walking in a meadow, the source of a small brook, when the sun at last, just before setting, after a cold gray day, reached a clear stratum in the horizon, and the softest, brightest morning sunlight fell on the dry grass and on the stems of the trees in the opposite horizon, and on the leaves of the shrub oaks on the hillside, while our shadows stretched long over the meadow eastward as if we were the only motes in its beams. It was such a light as we could not have imagined a moment before, and the air also was so warm and serene that nothing was wanting to make a paradise of that meadow. When we reflected that this was not a solitary phenomenon, never to happen again, but that it would happen forever and ever, an infinite number of evenings, and cheer and reassure the latest child of God that walked there, it was more glorious still." For me personally, after spending 25 years as a biotech entrepreneur and investor, and another 10 years as the senior minister at First Parish Unitarian Universalist in Brookline, I retired 5.5 years ago to recover my health and sense of well-being. At the time, I was obese, weighing over 255 pounds, hypertensive with chronic cardiac atrial fibrillation, and a host of lesser symptoms. It was long overdue. I began training with a personal trainer, learned and began to practice yoga, and began walking in the woods with Waldo and Henry. I learned to practice sensational sauntering, mindful motion, immersing myself in the wild of Concord to discover joy, health, and equanimity. Over the next 4 years, I lost nearly 30 pounds, learned to manage My hypertension, cardiac afibrillation, and most of my other worrying symptoms gradually faded away. I traveled with mystics in many different religious traditions and in many different parts of the world. They welcomed me into their traditions and taught me how to engage with and immerse myself within the divine mystery in each of these mystic traditions. As Emerson would say, I discovered I am truly nothing, a transparent eyeball, yet the universal being circulates through me. I am part and particle of God. How very small, humbling, yet glorious and transcendent is our place in the universe, for we are truly children of God. January of last year, 3 months before the COVID pandemic lockdown, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. This is a chronic neurodegenerative disorder for which as of yet, there is no cure. When the pandemic came, I could no longer travel, could no longer meet with my physical trainer, nor go to the yoga studio. So it felt like all of which I had worked so hard to attain was now at risk. So I began walking in the woods daily, forest bathing, to connect with a profound sense of the beauty and mystery of the universe. When there was no other path forward, we walked the one presented to us. Since all our food was ordered in, Loretta and I shifted our diet to be mostly plant-based, organic, avoiding sugars, starches, and highly processed foods entirely. 15 months later, I have lost another 40 pounds, bringing my weight under 185 pounds for the first time in many decades, and my BMI is now in the healthy range. My Parkinson's is responding well to treatment, and my energy levels are so good now that I've recently agreed to become executive chairman of Reform Biologics, a local biotech firm. I have begun work on my third book, which will be a cultural biography of the town of Concord over 400 years, and I often rise with the sun. Forest bathing, mindful motion, immersing myself in the wild has been my core spiritual practice all these many months. I invite you to try it. Perhaps today it can transform your life as it has done mine. Amen and blessed be.
Thank you, Jim. You'll see the reflection question for today. Where do you encounter beauty and mystery? You're welcome to type your response into the chat. Make it brief, please, and I'll read some of them aloud. We have some wonderful responses in the chat. I'll just read a few of them. It's far too many to read all of them, even though so many are so good. On the rail trail, in the dusk, the dawn, bird song, the grounds of Tanglewood, the structure and variety of many plants and flowers, at Drumlin Farm in Lincoln, Massachusetts, on walks with my son, while swimming in Walden Pond, the enduring ocean in my dog's eyes, where the ocean meets the land, in the hemlocks on the way to Egg Rock, witnessing the miracle of growth, observing nature's creatures in our yard, on the river with a blue heron, in human relationship. Thank you so much. There's many more. If you want, you can read them all in the chat. And now we will join in song, Now I Walk in Beauty. We now enter our time of prayer and meditation. We'll start by lifting up those in our community who we are currently praying for. This week, we are praying for Susie and Sharon. You can find out more about their situations in the chat. I now invite you to type any names that you are praying for or holding in your heart, or call them aloud. You can type them into the chat or simply call them aloud out to yourself.
Speak.
I offer this prayer for encountering the wild. However it presents itself to us, may we find our way into wildness. May we learn to practice mindful motion and sensational sauntering. May we each find health, happiness, and deep equanimity. May we come to know our place in the universe. With deep humility, egotism vanishing, and yet part of divine mystery. May we cherish our moments of beauty and exaltation in nature. Let us always remember we are walking on holy ground, made holy by those who came before us and our own practices. For this we are truly grateful. Amen, and blessed be.
Now is your opportunity to contribute to the good work of First Parish in Concord. You'll see a number appear on your screen that will allow you to text your donation. Just text a whole number, a 20 or a 50 or a 100. The first time you do it, you will need your credit card handy. You can also donate through our website or postal mail and a check to the church building, if that is your preference. I know I sound like a broken record when I talk about FP Weekly, but it's because it is so fantastic and it is really the most efficient way to know everything that is going on at First Parish this summer. So if you have not signed up for FP Weekly, or if you're not getting it, just check in and make sure you can check in with Sarah Burns, or you can just go into your spam folder, your other messages folder, and see if it's maybe going there, because it comes every Friday and it's just a wealth of information about what's going on in the church. After service today, we will have both the coffee hour and the worship sharing circle. And I hear tell that Jim Sherblum is going to be at the coffee hour. So if you want to pick his brain a little bit, I think if you show up there, you might be able to. And I think that's all I have to tell you for invitations. Again, FP Weekly, cannot recommend it highly enough. 5 out of 5 stars. Please join us in our closing song, I Am That Great and Fiery Force.
The closing words are also from Henry David Thoreau. He writes, "So we saunter toward the Holy Land, till one day the sun shall shine more brightly than ever he has done, shall perchance shine into our minds and hearts and light up our whole lives with a great awakening light, as warm and serene and golden as on a bankside in autumn. So may it be."
Please join me in the First Parish Benediction. Go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings.